wheels. Thank you so much for coming a little bit early today for our education. Welcome to Beyond the Hype, Real World AI Strategies for Promo Professionals. That's us. I'm Lisa Fosdick, Professional Development Chair for NEPPA, Fractional VP of Sales for Hydropeak, and Principal of the Promo Playbook. Our industry overall has survived tariffs, Prop 65, recessions, 9/11, let's never forget, and embraced the internet, e-commerce, and now AI. Our industry is incredibly resilient and adaptable, filled with creative, lifelong learners like all of you in the room. I applaud you, we applaud you, NEPPA thanks you for your participation. For the last couple of years, we heard that AI is going to change everything. We've seen the headlines, we've seen the chatbots. For most of us in this room, the question is, what is AI, but how is it going to actually help me sell more products and run a better business? Today we aren't talking about theory, we're talking about reality. We have brought together 4 industry leaders who are moving past the buzzwords to show us exactly how they are using this technology to eliminate bottlenecks, reduce costs, and create a better experience for distributors, suppliers, and end users. I would like to introduce and thank our incredible hosts, Emily Codner and Abby Burke. Between Emily's leadership on the NEPPA board and her work at I Promote You, and Abby's visionary approach to digital marketing and her recent Rising Star honors at Walker Clay, they both knew and will facilitate a real honest conversation about AI. Emily and Abby, thank you for leading the discussion and for pushing the NEPPA community to stay ahead of the curve and lending your thoughtful approach to the panel. A shout out to my co-chair, Kathy Lojacino, for helping put this together. As we put this event together, she was an awesome support. And before I turn the microphone over to our hosts, I would like to do quick introductions. Britney Godsey, Chief Revenue Officer of Gold Bond. Britney is looking at AI through the lens of growth. Jeison Ortega, Chief Technology Officer from Charles River Apparel. Jeison is doing some of the most cutting edge work in our space, using AI for everything from sentiment analysis to building operational templates. We have Halle Moore from Promo Corner as a marketing service provider. Halle is on the front lines of the creative revolution. And we also have Javier Menendez from senior sales rep from Walker Clay, who won a great award last night. Lots of award winners in the room. And he's going to share a distributor's perspective, sharing how he uses a broad range of AI tools to elevate the client experience. So we've got a lot to cover, from hallucinations to high-level operations. So we're going to dive right in. Thank you.
Yeah. Wow, well, thank you, Lisa, for that introduction. Oh, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I'm Emily Codner. I'm the Director of Affiliate Services for I Promote You, and I use AI mostly to clean up my writing, but also for some imagery.
I'm Abby. I am with Walker Clay Distributor, and I mostly use AI to do the things I am bad at. It's really my lifeline for the things that might not be my greatest strength, but it does very well.
Awesome. So we're just going to start with a couple kickoff questions, and this is to be addressed by all of you. So first off, what is your favorite AI service, both free and paid? So let's start with Javi.
So my favorite one right now is Granola for meeting taking. That's a paid service. Free ChatGPT is probably one of the easiest free versions of AI. That's probably the most useful at the moment.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off you. I use Fireflies instead of Granola, but the reason why I like Fireflies versus anything else is it has a natural integration into HubSpot, which is our CRM. So as soon as we finish a meeting, it shoves all of the notes, action items in there for our sales reps and helps assign tasks for them just to make their life a little bit easier. I think we've all been on the road as a salesperson. You get back into the room after a long day, and the last thing you want to do is enter in data into your CRM for your leadership team. So it just eliminates that white noise, and I think it's great for that. Another paid tool that I personally like is Claude, but that's again because it has native integrations into NetSuite, our ERP, and HubSpot, our CRM, so it makes data synthesizing a lot faster, cleaner for decision tree making, or I'll get decision decay. And I think from a free tool, Notebook LM, if you've seen any of my previous sessions, you know I'm a sicko for Notebook LM. I think it just helps you synthesize and learn information at rapid speed and helps you deal with things like Abby, you mentioned the things you're really bad at. I'm bad at 60-page contracts. My attention span is limited. I would call it an emerging skill. Yeah. And it helps generate a podcast in 10 or 15 minutes that I can listen to on the way home instead of dedicating 2 hours to reading a 60-page document. And I can make decisions a lot faster in my role set.
So smart.
So for me, for a free service, I use ChatGPT probably every day. I'm coming at it from a marketing and social media standpoint. So that's super helpful for cleaning up social captions, idea generation, and all of that stuff. For a paid service, I also really like Firefly. I'll use it to summarize my meetings that I have. I also have an app on my phone so I can record it direct, like if it's an in-person meeting, I can just record it and then it will give me a summary of everything that happened afterwards.
Well, mine is a little bit more technical, but I use OpenClaw. It allows you to pull in and connect to different LLMs. So you can use ChatGPT, Claude, Grok. You can basically manage it or centralize your interactions with LLM, and it's a free product that then you can deploy automations with. Free, that's the free one. Paid, I think my favorite one has got to be Replit. And it's similar to Lovable. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. It's an app. It's a platform that allows you to vibe code. So if you have an idea that you want to actually see it, you just go in there, tell it what you want it to do and how you want it to look like, and you hit a button, and all of a sudden now you have a functional application that would work on a browser and on your phone. So that would be Replit.
Can you repeat that again, please? I'm sorry, the name of that.
Replit. And you can also maybe look into Lovable. They're comparable options.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. All right, so you guys are definitely all using different corners of AI. And this question is, if you could tell the audience, wake up tomorrow, here's one low-risk task that you can delegate to AI. Right now, first thing in the morning, what tool are you going to suggest to them? So, Javi, I guess we'll just
Yeah, if you have to start tomorrow, I one thing you've heard pretty much across the board is going to be like a meeting note taker. That's like the easiest way to get started, I feel, for most reps. And like for me, I use AI not because I'm trying to like replace any job function or anything like that. I'm just trying to get more of my time back so I can delegate it to other things. I'm inherently lazy by choice. I'm productively lazy. So much so that I even have a foot pedal for my voice dictation at my desk. So yes, I promise you I do. So meeting note taking is probably the easiest and the quickest way to get off the jump, and then you can dive into other things like Jaison mentioned like vibe coding and stuff. So vibe coding, for those who don't know that term, is essentially like I'm using prompting instead of actually writing like JavaScript code, Python code, anything like that. It's using the tool to like, hey, this is what I want, this is what I want you to do. And if you're really lucky, you can do something called one-shotting, which is it gives you the exact thing that you want. That's another term that a lot of people that use AI use. So.
Cool. So in my experience, most people are flirting with ChatGPT, and they're using it for things like you mentioned, improving their writing, developing a cleaner scope of work before they send their drafts off. And so if you're already in that platform, I think the easiest low-hanging fruit that you could do would be to either generate tasks for yourself or use a custom GPT. So for tasks, a way that you could use it would be if you're prospecting a certain market, you're deep in a certain market, maybe real estate is a good example of something that you work a lot with. You can have it run a task for you, and every morning just kind of tell you the updates of the industry, what's the going rate for interest rates, loans, things like that, just to help keep you armed and informed for new conversations that you might have with your clients. And then custom GPTs, if I was going to suggest one place to get started, I'd probably build a custom GPT for your top 5 clients, do one per client, because it acts like a baby knowledge bank and will help you identify gaps in your service levels, in your product portfolio, things that you may be seeing some margin erosion on and you don't recognize it as that because you're just working the projects individually as they come in. And I think it can help develop signals and clarity for some of those things where you're selling all the time and so you're going 1,000 miles an hour. Sometimes it's hard to see the forest through the trees, and that will just help offer you some directional pathways for dialogue and strategic planning.
I would use it to help organize your social media planning. You can feed in all of the links to your current business profiles and ask it to review what you've posted and come up with a calendar that still has your tone and your personality behind it, but ask ways to elevate it and improve it, and it will give you a schedule of things that you can work on and implement.
I figure most of the people here are either Office 365 or Microsoft environment or Google environment. I would say rely heavily on the LLM agents or services that come already with these offerings. It'll help you keep your data in the same protected environment. And in terms of, if tomorrow is the first day that you started using AI for productivity, I'll pick an example with Microsoft. If you can actually tell Copilot, and this is how I use it. I have it assess all my emails for the last 2 weeks, identify any action items that I need to take, estimate the time it will take me, and then create calendar entries for me that plan my day ahead of time. And that allows me to systematically ensure that I'm not missing things while I'm then allocating time for anything else that I wanted to do. And so that's one way that you could leverage AI, and that could be true for Google, that could be true for Microsoft, and a lot of these platforms that provide productivity for work. So I would say, if you have Microsoft, use Copilot. If you're in Google, use Gemini. But leverage the technology that you already have. This will introduce a lot of productivity with you with minimal risk in terms of data exposure.
Wow, okay.
Can I jump
Yeah.
on that for a second though?
Go ahead.
You can also use the tools like in your workspace to schedule things out. You can schedule a lot of things too. So like it could be something like what Jeison just said, you could schedule it to run every morning at 7 a.m. so your day starts that way. I have some prospect monitoring, so set up through some custom stuff with Claude where like I have like 10 prospects I've vetted, and it checks every Monday, is there anything new? Do they have an IPO coming up? Do they have any new acquisitions, such and such? So I can just be kind of on top of those opportunities, and then it's also feeding me like how it relates to promo. So it's like, oh, well, they're gonna have an acquisition, they might need IPO kits, a new hire kits, stuff like that. So you can set those things up on cadences with your workspace. And I know in Google, I think in Microsoft too, but I'm an avid non-Microsoft fan, so that's my thing.
So they're smarter already.
Yeah, can I, sorry.
Of course.
Just because Halle was talking about social media, and I hear that a lot consistently when I meet with distributors. They want to get more proactive online, but they lack the time, talent, resource to do it, right? And if they're gonna spend time on something, they want to sell something, not post something or be a dancing head. So going back to the task thing on ChatGPT, what I used to do, and I got really bad at it, so I don't do it anymore, but it can be done, is set up a recurring task for it to scour your website, any material that you want to promote. Maybe you have sustainability or something in mind, and it will draft all of that for you, tell you what to post, and draft the copy for you. And then you can even ask it to draft any prompts that you might be using for a secondary tool to generate images or videos, avatars of yourself, things like that. Figured that.
I want to add a quick thing to that, because something Mandy at Walker Clay was doing no social media, and now I think she gets like 5 posts up a week. One of the hang up points is coming up with the idea, right? Like, what am I actually gonna post? Like, oh, I have all these samples, but what do I do with them? You can just tell chat, I have these 5 things, build a connection, tell me a theme, and it might say, okay, these are 5 things that you could have as a giveaway at a college event. or it'll tell you these might be a good idea for summer. So it can do that for you really quick, and then you can just, boop, now I can do it.
Yeah, and it can give you the entire script, and then you can tweak it based on what fits you personally, and you can throw it right into a teleprompter, and you can be on the camera and reading it and have it posted and all done in under 5 minutes.
For me, I think just a word of caution is right. AI can make mistakes, and I think that's going to be a theme that we're going to touch on. That those are all great practical ideas, but it's still very important that you have oversight and control over what you're putting out there, right? Like the teleprompter example, you want to know what you're saying before you actually go and say it on camera. So I would just add, it's great, it's practical, it's very effective at giving you ideas and bouncing off concepts and help you think about things that you wouldn't have otherwise thought about. But it is critical that you still know that this is information that you're putting forward. It's just helping you organize your thoughts and opinions. And that's how you differentiate yourself and maximize AI's outputs. It's you're bringing in your secret sauce and having it shape it in a way that makes sense for what you're trying to accomplish. But it's critical that as humans, we still provide oversight into what AI is doing.
I'm constantly going through my AI and fixing grammar all the time because it drives me batty when it puts like a dash in where
And
it
that's
should be a
just
comma
everywhere. Yeah.
or a semicolon. So
I used to use that punctuation, and now I can't, because people think it was AI.
yeah.
It's really neat. All right, so we will get to the hallucinations and all of that too, but let's shift a little bit, and this is gonna kind of be more direct to you, Brittany, getting into the cost to serve and how things are changing there. So I love speaking with you in Vegas, that was great, and you were speaking about reducing the cost to serve the distributor. And I think you had some great examples of what Gold Bond is doing with AI robots, the chatbots, just data analysis overall. And it would be great if you could share how you're handing off the repetitive tasks.
Yes, this conversation stemmed from another conversation we were talking about. So on the supplier side, we have the consistent challenge of reducing our cost to serve, because as we manufacture things, they continue to get more expensive. What used to cost 50 cents to make maybe costs 58 cents now. And clients don't like to get that new cost, right? When they're repeating an order or something like that. That coupled with now we have more distributors that are coming to us and trying to negotiate pricing concessions, discounts off EQP, rebates, so setups, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, hey, how are we gonna make money, right? So we had to really have deliberate discussions around reducing our cost to serve and looking at it through each part of our operations, the order lens, how we enter the order, how we process the order, how we concierge the customer, because while we don't lead in size, we lead in speed and service, and so we don't want to lose that specialty aspect of our business. And we had the question, what are our people, what do we want to pay humans to do, and what can a system do better and faster? Because when you think about it, a lot of distributors, they call in, they want to know, does this item come in red? What's your inventory? What's my price? How do I get a spec sample? Those are all important engagements that we want to help facilitate, but they're not necessarily high skill requirements to facilitate, right? So we built different chatbots that help with that repetitive layer. So people can go on to the website, call in. Now if you call in and you hear a girl named Iris, that's our AI chatbot, or you could just chat on the website to get those same answers. Reduce the friction and the noise, because what happens when you call in and you ask for inventory? Somebody answers the phone. So our business is built on constant interruptions that happen hundreds of times a day across multiple agents or customer service reps and sales reps, and we want them to be doing things like building relationships, identifying growth opportunities, reserving their time for things that truly take critical thinking and judgment to do. And so that's how chatbots have helped us, but we had to do a lot of data analysis too. How do we know what people are gonna ask? How do we answer it? What if they ask something in different ways, right? And how do we politely tell them no when they ask for 5% off $1 and free setups, things like that? At what point do we deploy it to a human to facilitate? So you can use different AI tools in your phone system, your order data. You probably are sitting on a gold mine of information. You just got to synthesize it. But yeah, that's how we really used AI to shift from a historically reactionary way of doing things to a more proactive approach, but protecting our service levels and our commitment to the customer to concierge them to the standards that we hold ourselves accountable to.
So we're gonna swap over to more marketing, creative, social voice. So Miss Halle, our social media extraordinaire. As a marketing service provider, how does AI help you maintain a unique voice for different brands without everything starting to sound like it's a genetic robot? Like, how does it make it sound like Halle instead of some Iris?
Yes.
So for this, I think it's really fun the way that I do it. So I will take a piece of content or something specific that has been like repeated multiple times, and I'll create a Google Doc, and I will go in and drop every single one that I've ever done, whether that's one that was created completely from scratch by me or one that was fed to chat and I tweaked and edited it to give it my personal voice. But these pages will be like 10 plus pages long, and then I'll throw it back into chat, but add a prompt based on all of this past information that you have about how I've structured these like social post captions in the past or pieces of content in the past. Can you create a draft for me using like my tone and my vibe? And usually it still needs a lot of tweaks to really have that personal touch to it, but giving it information on yourself and how you speak and the way you write will really help push out a more unique approach, because I can completely tell when something has just been thrown into chat and bounced back. Like I see out of offices where I'm like, that is 100% completely chat, nobody's changed a thing. And you see social post captions the exact same way. Chat has a very distinct way of outputting things. So it's very important to give it as much information on yourself and how you speak as possible. And you can do that by uploading videos of yourself talking, just for like the way you talk and mannerisms and all of that stuff. And it can be text as well. So don't be afraid to give it a like ton of information on you. And I drop in my LinkedIn profile and like constantly have it like updating it and looking at my voice, what I'm doing and how I can tweak it.
I would also say, if you haven't done this, have your AI interview you. It's the best hype you will ever have. It's your biggest hype person. It's true.
I love that.
It's really fun,
That's a
actually.
great idea.
It's kind of sketchy though, because I think I saw a stat where it was like 40,000 Americans treat ChatGPT like their companion.
Yeah.
I was like, that's creepy.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that
like,
far.
Yeah. So you don't want it to be your doctor, your therapist, or your
No.
life partner. But yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna skip.
It's terrifying.
It is true.
I'm gonna skip a little bit because Jaison, I feel like you are very excited to talk about the hallucinations, perhaps. And I think I'll leave it to you to, if you want to explain a little bit about hallucinations and then how you have developed protocols to make sure that any data templates you're working with actually are accurate.
Yeah, more than happy to. So it dovetails into what we're just discussing, right? There's a couple of things here. You have to understand that hallucination will happen. There's no AI that will guarantee you 0% hallucination. So with that mindset, it's also equally important that you understand that humans also make mistakes. So, you have to look at what is the problem I'm trying to solve and what is the tolerance of risk in terms of hallucination. And then with that context, what you just described in terms of feeding in information about you, we just talked about sitting on a mine of data. You have a lot of data you may not be aware you have, but that is key in operating under what's called RAG, so retrieval augmented generation. So what that means is that you're telling AI, this is the data set that I want you to base the information you're giving back to me on. And that's really important. The way LLMs work is that they have all the knowledge, and you need to help it narrow it down to a context that's relevant to what you're working on. So I would say it comes down to RAG mindset. So you have to feed it the data and instruct it to limit it's analysis. So you're using the logical and intelligence element of it and layering that on top of your information already. A critical point in interaction with LLM is also instructing it to give you and cite its sources. And that allows you to then judge the quality of the information that you're getting back, right? So if you look at it as a three-pronged approach. RAG, ask it to cite sources so that you know where it's getting and how it's thinking about the recommendations that you're getting back. Lastly is that human in the middle approach. You cannot allow AI to run autonomously on things that we presented critically. There's case law that talk about chat box giving out pricing from people, and the way the law looks at it, it is something that you program and you have to honor that. So you have to be very careful about how that information gets out. So if you give it the data, provide context, ask it to source, list the sources, and you provide that human oversight, that definitely helps mitigating that hallucination risk.
I would love to add a quick comment for just perspective on this. So my kids are 3rd grade and 5th grade, and a few months ago we got a town-wide email about how they're letting kids use AI, how they are making sure they're using it appropriately, but heavily on how we're teaching them to fact check. So they're embracing it, like these kids, they are working with it, they understand it, but they're making sure they're
Yeah, we just had, during Earth Day at Charles River, we had all the kids, like the families come over, and we had an AI session, because why not? And what we did in there was we created, we taught the kids about AI safety, right? And the whole concept was, how do you determine what's real versus what isn't real? But what we did is we had them use AI to build a game in real time that then they could play and identify what's real and what isn't. But that is correct, right? It is critical that we know that this is a machine that is using artificial intelligence. Nothing matches human intelligence yet.
Okay, Javi, so from the distributor perspective and client experience, personal touch. You're a senior sales rep. There's often a fear that AI makes sales less personal, like you want to touch your people, that we're a relationship driven business. How are you using it to actually improve the client experience and make your interactions more white glove?
Yeah, so it's a loaded question because there's all different aspects and ways that I'm using it to enhance it. So first is I don't type a lot. I talk to my computer a lot. I mentioned the foot pedal for a reason. I type most of my emails with voice. So I use apps. Whisperflow is a great one. And in fact, one of my coworkers got injured, broke her wrist and stuff like that. And I told her, why don't you just use this? And she's like, oh my God, where has this been? So talking to text is a huge aspect of it. You can use Whisperflow. ChatGPT has one out there. I use a third one. So that's one way, like, hey, that speeds up my emails, but like, it's still me talking to them. So it's a personalized, it's not just like throwing a prompt out there. Another way that I use it is I use a lot of things like Merge AI or virtual generation to create images for clients, and I can do that quickly. I have a whole graphics team that can put together actual proofs, but for quick mock-ups, I can use different websites, some suppliers that are in the room, and not have some great online tools to just make a quick virtual catalog and personalize it for the client. And when the client sees a personalized catalog, I gotta tell you, it like a lot of times generates orders because it's like, oh, that's how it's going to look. Now again, we were just talking about hallucinations. Sometimes it doesn't always gonna look like that, honey, but we will do the best we can. And then the other thing that I really like to do is take those voice notes. I mentioned like granola. I'll take that, put it into thing and say, hey, what did I miss? What was mentioned in the meeting that I might not have picked up on? And have some specific prompting to do that. But it's like, what did I miss? What was mentioned? Oh, they mentioned they always have an investors meeting in May. Cool. So I can reach out on that. And actually that literally just happened like 2 weeks ago. And now I had a rush order I had to put through. But so stuff like that happens all the time. If you're paying attention, you build some systems to do that. And the last thing that is, what does the client need? I had a client a month ago. We're putting together this kit project. Now, our system, each item is considered an order. So like 8 items in a kit is 8 orders. So I'll take, okay, here's all the acknowledgements. She's like, Javi, I can't do 8 emails. Can you please just put this in one email, one spreadsheet for me so I can get it past approvals? Cool. I dumped it all into Claude, all the acknowledgements into Claude, synthesized this into an Excel sheet for me. It did it in 2 minutes, and she's like, approved. So like, sometimes it's that simple. Like, all right, how can I do this? How can I make this simpler for the client? How can I reduce the friction? Reducing friction in your sales process is the best way to get more sales. Because clients nowadays, you think about it, I can DoorDash instead of having to call the person. I can, order whatever I want these days from my phone. Clients are on their phones. Clients are texting or slacking nowadays. Email is not the most efficient sometimes, depending on your client and the how involved that order is. I can tell you that right now, I probably have a Slack message from a client saying, hey, I want to place an order for this. Because that happens literally every day, because I'm talking to them, because I'm reducing the friction and saying, you don't need to email me, wait 24 hours, whatever. If it's right here, I can see it, boom, I can go ahead and I can get the order placed. Reduce the friction, use AI to do it, save yourself a little more time, and at the end of the day, enjoy what you build.
I think, so I work with Javi, we share an office on Tuesdays. I hear a lot about the AI stuff he's doing. And, all right, I think I want to word this, but the note takers, the other day we were looking at different note takers because I wanted transcripts of meetings because I forget rather quickly what I talked about. I think that people really enjoy when you send them those summaries of the conversation you've been giving or that you had, and putting a little bit of that liability in a way of like, hey, here's my summary, here's my checklist, here's what I'm working on, let me know if you saw anything missing or if like I need to add something, because people know that it's from AI, but it seems like your clients are obviously very cool with it for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just upfront with it, so that's one thing, is like, when you're doing like Zoom calls and such like that, and there's actually some safety and some legal things that y'all should realize too with this. There's some safety aspects of it, making sure like you're following legal guidelines. In Massachusetts is a 2-party consent state. There's also a few other states. So if you're using a note taker or a transcription tool, you're supposed to tell them, or it's supposed to be announced, hey, this meeting's being recorded. Not all states have that. Massachusetts is one, so if you're doing business in Mass, you have to legally tell the other party. Like if somebody in here was recording and whatnot, you're legally supposed to say, hey, by the way, I'm recording this, etc. So that's one thing that you do have to be aware of. That's like a legal thing, because if all of a sudden you use that recording and against law, it's actually against you, it's a whole thing. But the other thing too with the summaries and such, if people know you're using AI, and I always say it, hey, I'm using a note taker, they're always like, cool, yeah, no problem. Because everyone's kind of used to it nowadays. But like you said, like sending them a summary, like, hey, here's the task, here's the quick, like 3 quick top things out of this meeting, etc. It just tells them like, hey, all right, you're on it. And it gives them that reassurance, like, okay, my project's actually being done. It's not like we just wasted time.
And also, I used to have my assistant join a lot of the client meetings. Now I give her the transcript from the meeting. So she's still working on normal tasks, and then I upload that to the system. And I'm like, hey, here's some tasks. All right, but I want to jump to Britney here, because this is actually very similar, talking about a distributor, making a really seamless workflow. What's something that was a really big bottleneck for you in your operations that kind of seems like it disappeared now that you've integrated AI?
This is a good question. I think I'd frame it as it wasn't a task that disappeared, it was the delay. So information latency in our business is a silent killer, because every hour that you don't respond means that probably an hour that your competitor's creeping in, or that the distributor is going, I gotta hurry up and get this back. I'm gonna fan it out, right, to my top 5 people, see who comes back first, and that's what's going on. Speed wins. And so for us, it was not so much about this fancy headline number, which we can spout off, right, if we needed to, but for me, the best thing that I did was give back my top sales rep 20 minutes from administrative work that they're overqualified for. And multiply that times every time they do that. Now I can point that at growth opportunities that they're working on. free up time for what they're really good at, what they love to do. They don't want to be bogged down by administrative burden, and it is frustrating as a salesperson to be out on the road, or you're trying to articulate something and you're like, just fucking do it. You know, like, don't ask questions, just make it happen, right? Yeah. So I think those little compressions of delay from question to answer is the game changer that we saw in our operational lift. If you wanted like headline numbers, we can definitely go through each, part of the business and say that. A good one would be sales order automation. We've just deployed that, and typically a human would take 15 minutes on average to enter an order if it was a clean order. Some people still draw on napkins. That's a very real thing. Now we process thousands of orders in 60 to 120 seconds. And the benefit of that is now I can offer you more products on rush service because I'm getting it out to the production floor faster. I can expand the max quantity. Instead of doing 100, now I can do 1,000 same day ship because I've sped up the time it takes to do those orders. And then the real benefit is I changed the need of those people that were entering orders. Now they can go out and do something that's more refined. I can elevate their skill set, pay them more money for the things that they're doing now and learning. And to me, that is a big headline win, I guess I would say.
All right, going back to more of the creative side of things. Social media moves at lightning speed. Obviously, the more present you are, the more attention you're getting. How has AI changed your idea to post timeline? Are you doing more with less or just doing more better?
It has drastically sped up what I'm able to do. So in my role, there's a lot of content creation, and one of those includes script writing. Before chat, I was completely drafting them on my own. It would take me anywhere from like 2 to 3 hours to really come up with a final script product. And as I was saying earlier, I can plug in those previous ones now, and it will give me a first draft. And as everybody's kind of been like reiterating, it's very important to not just use that as the final product. So I'm probably spending an hour still on it, but something that was 2 to 3 hours just to get to the baseline, I now can do start to finish in around an hour. So I'm definitely able to do a lot more with less time, which you can definitely use it to your advantage to like clean up everything. There's no need that something that you can start and draft with chat needs to take an entire half day anymore.
I'm gonna do a little bit of a shameless plug for the She Did That podcast that A Woman's View does with Promo Corner. We give our questions ahead of time, just we don't wanna throw anybody off kilter, especially when you're doing something like a podcast. And I just throw their bios into the chat and be like, hey, drop me some questions, and then I can go through and tailor them. Just saves me, rather than sitting there for 20 minutes being like, what am I gonna ask this? How am I gonna phrase this? It does it all for me. It's amazing.
As I've said, I love dropping LinkedIn profiles into chat. You can learn so much about somebody from just dropping it into chat and asking for questions and throwing the bio in there too. You'll have a whole fantastic write-up on somebody.
Can I layer on?
Yeah.
Cool. So, sorry, you sparked great thoughts, From a sales perspective, one of the cool things that we did was we built out sort of like a Claude project, if you will, that you could share with everybody in your enterprise, and it helps them understand how to meeting prep. So they're talking to all different types of distributors of sophistication, size, and needs. So a lot of times they're trying to cookie cut the same concepts and retrofit it for the meeting instead of trying to personalize it, because it's difficult to do and research requires a lot of time if you're doing it properly. And so now they can throw links into Claude, pull different behavioral dynamics, past invoice history, and it will synthesize all of it and identify, hey, you haven't asked about this. These are blank spaces in HubSpot that you need to figure out. Or if I were you, I would change your approach. Stop asking them about these things because it's not hitting. This will land better, and here's why. And it also helps them. We teach spin selling as our sales methodology. It also helps them develop their line of questioning and even their follow-up questions so that they don't sound silly when they walk in there. They feel more educated and they can get to where they want to go a lot faster. That meeting becomes a lot more productive, a lot less show pony. This is the latest thing. It also is at hit. we're 10 cents cheaper, something like that, right? So I think you can use it in a number of different ways. And we also built out reporting for top performers by industry so that they can use that in their meeting prep as well. And it just helps them identify, hey, if this is a prospective vertical for you or a lane that you play in a lot, maybe it's automotive or financial or whatever, these are the top performing things, how they're using them based off of invoice history, and even helps with seasonality trends. So what sells in the summer may not sell in the dead of winter. Why is that? And how are they using those products differently? And we also built dynamic battle cards for the sales reps. So as they're engaging with customers, they're like, oh, Pro V1s, they're expensive, I'm just trying to find the cheapest price, blah, 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 pops a dynamic battle card for them to understand how to handle those objections with more finesse, which can be difficult to do when you're on the fly. But that would be great from a distributor perspective. If they're like, hey, you're going up against BDA, you're going up against Staples, who's this 4imprint person I keep hearing about, right? That might help you deploy stronger objection handling to demonstrate your value proposition a little bit more. Because at the end of the day, they're like, yeah, but it is still cheap. So can you match it?
All right, so we have definitely been having conversation a little bit of, especially cost. Here's how we can use AI, save some money there. However, I think we should emphasize how valuable people still are. So I'll send this one to you, Jaison, where you like to keep humans in the loop. Hold on. Okay, can you actually give us an example? Because you can sit there and say it all day, but without an example, it doesn't quite stick in my head. So is there any specific project you can explain to us where maybe like 80% of it was done by AI, but the human 20% was the most critical?
Absolutely. So I would say the number one that comes to mind is our demand planning process. So early on, this was before the AI hype, we had a very manual process. We did have a software that if you imported the data and you just kind of sorted it out, and then a team of 5 people in the demand planning department would have to do all the analysis themselves. We've transitioned early on into a machine learning based system that does, I would say, 80% of the work behind the scenes. So we feed it all of our sales data, all the historical, our products, the factory data, lead times, all that fun stuff. And what it does is overnight, it comes back with buy recommendations. So what that does is it allows the demand planning team to now not have to deal too much with the analysis aspect of it in terms of processing all the data and overlaying it, but they're now focusing on executing on the buys based on the recommendations that AI is making. And I think that that was sort of early approach. I would say our first adoption into AI for Charles River was that process, but now we're taking that and elevating it, and it's the same concept. We're going to use a lot of those parameters that are being fed to the system and looking into lead indicators. We're looking into overlaying other factors that are going on that can impact a sale, whether it's regional, by industry, and all of it started with the reliance on AI or machine learning to process and cross-reference the data, but at the end of the day, our humans are the ones that are issuing those POs to the factories.
Javi, so we know you're a father, I'm a mom, we all have kids, little ones in our lives, and we kind of touched on this. We know AI safety is important. Can you share more about how safety comes into play?
Yeah, so there's several things here. First off is, as AI forward as I am, I don't let any of it touch my actual email. There's a few reasons for that, only technical reasons why, but basically I don't want it being super integrated into my processes. There's too many vulnerabilities. These companies are vibe coding way too fast, in my opinion. This is my personal opinion. Some of these companies are vibe coding way too fast. Some of you may have heard of, Jaison, what was the name of the one? It was before it was Open Claw. It was like Lobster Claw or Lobster King or something like that. Where it was essentially kind of the same thing as Open Claw is, but it was like there was so many vulnerabilities. There are things now emerging on the internet like prompt hacking. So for instance, all of a sudden you'll say an AI to research this company. They come across this one web page. There's a prompt injection in there, and all of a sudden, if your system's not locked down, you're getting hacked. That is happening right now through the world. Claude is actively monitoring that. The Claude Anthropic company is actively monitoring that, as well as a few others. So that is happening. The FBI is already doing investigations into some foreign players on that. So there's a very real security risk too with some of these systems. So you need to use trusted, vetted systems. Don't just go on and say, oh, this line of code looks great. If you don't know what you're doing with it, you got to be a little bit careful with it. That being said, there's great opportunities. You just got to play safe, play smart. Don't enter your credit card numbers into random places, right? And it's funny, people might laugh at that, but my wife works for a bank, and when she tells me some of the stories, I'm like, okay, yeah, exactly. That's how they got hacked. And we see hackings go on in our industry all the time. So please be safe, play smart, play in known spaces. Don't go into dark corners of the web. That's really the best way I can explain that.
Javi, I have a little follow-up question for you. So it is important to vet and know what we're working with, but not everybody has you in the room where I can just say, Javi, is this legit or not? Like, I have that advantage. So can you just put a little detail into what is important to look for? Because you're also always like first, you're adopting so early. So like, how are you making decisions like that it's safe enough?
So I follow some trusted resources on Twitter, TechCrunch, a few others, like kind of more vetted in technical industry people, leaders of these companies. So like Nikita from X, forgetting some of the names, but like from Anthropic, Altman from OpenAI. So trusted leaders. I'll also look at like, okay, what companies are partnering? Who's actually using what? So you'll see like OpenAI is partnered with Microsoft. Okay, they're probably legit. Claude is partnered with the DoD. Okay, they're probably legit. But then it's like, oh, look at, I'm gonna throw Claude again under the bus, but you look at this Claude system and it's like, I saw that and I was like, oh, it's locally, it works right. I'm like, but wait a minute. And then I started seeing the vulnerabilities pop up on Twitter. So sometimes it's like, let it breathe for a few minutes. Don't just download it because it's the best thing. I downloaded this one program, it's called Poke. Don't recommend it because the whole thing is it's supposed to be like this interactive, etc. I have junk emails that are not connected to anything for this specific purpose when I test things. And it was like giving me attitude. It was like, we talked about like the personality things and I'm like, I don't need somebody giving me an attitude. Like I'm a New Englander, I can talk with the best of them, but like, I don't need an AI doing that to me. And it was, and it ended up being that they had some vulnerabilities and they got hacked too. So be careful, be safe, be smart, trusted sources, look at some trusted resources like TechCrunch. Jaison can probably name way more off the top of his head than I can at the moment of places to look at, but be more, who's using them? Who else has vetted them and what other technical advisors? And if you're not sure, if you have a tech department, ask your tech department, etc. They'll do the research for you. I kind of sometimes me and August are the tech department, so we're just like, what do we think here? But yeah, if you're scared to kind of work that way, just start with your trusted sources like Google, Microsoft, Copilot, start there.
Awesome. So we're running out of time, so we're gonna do a quick lightning round question for all of you guys. 2027 outlook. If we're sitting here 1 year from today, what is the one AI capability we'll be talking about that seems like science fiction right now? And Jaison.
I'll try to be quick, but think about, who can think about the first computer where it's a big box, a big room that was just dedicated to that one computer. And if we look at it now, we have computers in our pockets, right? I think with AI, that's the big computer right now. This is the beginning. The way that things are evolving, I see us a year from now in a very agentic-based AI, and that is a lot of the thinking that we're doing will be outsourced, and we have to start preparing to operate very differently. I think you got to look back at the difference in how much commerce happens now in the internet. How would you explain that to someone 50 years ago? Or the velocity of growth and involvement in AI, and this is called, it's not a GPT and ChatGPT, generative So generic purpose technology is a GPT, and that's like the internet or industrialization. So the GPT, a year from now, I think we're gonna expect an agentic approach to most of the things that we're doing today.
I think a year from now, what we're gonna be seeing with the photo and video generation is going to be totally different. Every time they come out with a new update to it, it gets so much more realistic. There's going to be a point where it's gonna be impossible to tell. Right now, it's hard to tell, but you can usually tell there's a little twinge of AI to it. I think a year from now, the photo and video generation is gonna be almost unrecognizable.
I might be a little morbid, but I think a year from now, you're gonna have some players that are already so sophisticated, you're gonna be competing with sales AI agents, and they're gonna be really freaking good, and they're gonna sound really good, and they're gonna think at lightning speed. So if you're competing with e-commerce today, maybe, you know, shun me, the 4 imprint words, stuff like that, then I think it's going to accelerate rapidly, and you're gonna have to figure out how to develop strong value propositions, deepen your relationships to the point that you're so sticky it can't introduce a opportunity to get outperformed by an AI sales agent, but it's already happening. It's definitely happening in other industries. Ours is slower to adopt, typically on the technology side, but some of the stuff that it's doing is you would never know the difference if it was me calling or an AI sales agent, which is scary, but also our industry is not that difficult to learn, so we have to be extraordinary at social skills and one-to-one human connection, which we do all crave, but we also all live in a digital world. So we love text messages, that's easy for an AI sales agent to do. We love social media things, that's easy for a sales agent to do. So you're gonna have to get really good at figuring out how you're gonna stand out in that space.
You stole like every thought I just had.
We can end early.
No, yeah, no, I that's actually like legit some of the conversation we've had. It's like, all right, we are competing against like foreign prints and such like that. So how do we separate or differentiate ourselves? And I agree 100%. We are going to be competing against the chatbots 100%. But what makes us stand out as promo professionals is the relationships. And I say that wholeheartedly. We've been investing a lot more in in-person experiences, in-person meetings, a lot more travel as a distributorship, because those relationships are what's building. I mean, having clients come to the show today is another great example. They get to look, touch, feel, see all these different things. I told my clients, hey, I ran it through for the clients that are coming. You did these projects last year, so you might have holiday gift, you might have a company picnic, etc. This is the time to look for those ideas so they can actually see it. And then they're like, oh, like last year I remember, oh, thank you so much for bringing us out. Like, this was so great. And they actually order because they actually got to see it in person. We just had a supplier came with me to one of my top clients for an in-person for a project, and they were like, that was so great to actually see it outside of a catalog and such. So being physical is what is going to separate you from some of your competition down the road. And I think that's really important for our industry to emphasize right now. Like, all these AI innovations are great, but let's not forget, we are a physical product. We are a physical in-person. We build the emotion. We create the merch that people want to steal, and all the other great words that Charity says that I can't remember off the top of my head. But that's what separates us. So being in person, being a real person, having those real relationships is what's going to separate us versus the bots of the world and the Terminators.
All right, well, thank you to Javi, Britney, Halle, and Jaison for being here today. We are out of time, unfortunately, so please, if you have questions, please stop by up at the table before you hit the floor. I'm sure everybody will be happy to answer a couple questions. Please fill out the survey, it's really important so we can tailor the kind of education you guys want, moving forward. But have fun at the show today. Thank you for being here and have a good day.